marketing, entrepreneurship, and all things small business. You're listening to the Jurassic Marketing's Triceratops. Now, here's your host, Justin Miller.
Welcome to the podcast. Hey, for this week, I got something a little different in store for you. We recently had a direct mail boot camp via Zoom, not in our office, to my dismay. And we had several business owners, entrepreneurs, and marketers on there. We spent a whole day with them going through and actually creating campaigns they could put in play afterwards. And I wanted to share with you just kind of our opening segment that I gave on that, because I think there's a lot of useful insights on why direct mail is still working right now in 2026. And next week, I'll share a little more on what I see for the future of it. So sit back, listen, enjoy this clip of a little bit of what went on at the beginning of the workshop. All right, so let's talk about some of the tangible and psychological benefits we get in direct mail that we don't get from other media. And these are why you would pay for direct mail. Number one, and I cannot overstate it, the most important one, is we get trust by the mere fact it comes via this media. And it sounds stupid, but it's something physical. It's tactile. I think that's my next bullet. So somewhere in people's minds, this clicks that this costs money, it's real, the company must be legitimate, okay? I think our BS meter is high enough online that we know that anyone can place an online ad. Now, logically, we know that anyone can send a piece of mail as well, but they don't. So we get that benefit out the gate, and we pay for that right, obviously. The post office wants some money, but it's worth it. It creates legitimacy again. It can be personalized. So yes, you can do that online as well, obviously, but we can personalize the content for the individual consumer. Big one, though, is just the clutter. The clutter everywhere. Inbox is crazy. I don't know why Gmail started letting them through, but I get so many cold pitches via email right now, and online ads are just everywhere, and we're really good at just blocking them out. And it's going to be even more and more cluttered. The mailbox, the physical mailbox, is pretty empty. You know, you might have like a weekly ad circular, you might have Valpak or money mailers, but beyond that, what do you have? You have mainly actual bills, which you have to pay attention to, should. You might occasionally get a postcard. If you're fortunate and you have a family member that connects via a physical greeting card, you're still getting those occasionally. But for the most part, there's very little physical mail coming in. Oh, you'll get political mailings too. Whenever you have those years, you're gonna get hammered with that. But it's not cluttered. And it's less and less cluttered. So mail volumes overall are falling, and that is across all categories of mail. They keep going down. So as an agency, I have tied myself intentionally to a format that the volume is decreasing. Now, will it disappear? I don't think so. It's deeply entrenched in politics and mandated to exist. You know, will they screw it up? Yes. But there'll be still some angle on it at some point. So it will be around. When we get to Q&A, if you're curious about that stuff, remind me about universal delivery and other things that are mandated right now by the government. You wouldn't want to be the post office because it's supposed to be independent of the government, but they tell you who to deliver to and they tell you how much to do it for. So if you ever hear post offices losing money, well, that's why, because they're handcuffed. Tangible mail has an emotional connection, and it gets remembered. Maybe not one piece, but if you have a frequency and a pattern of sending something and it comes over and over and over, it is more memorable. Or if you send something that's outside of the box, maybe some lumpy mail or a package or something like that, it's going to get remembered. I can remember probably every, shock and awe in direct response terms. Shock and awe box that I've been sent. I can remember probably every thank you gift I've gotten at this company because there's so few of them. So we get trust and authority from all these things combined together that we don't get anywhere else. Going back to that, it also sticks around. So I didn't put that on this particular slide. But if there is an interest, even if it's a passive interest in what you're talking about in your mail piece, it tends to sit around. As a marketer, this is good and bad. It's good because I get response longer. It's bad because the tail, it comes in, it has a tail on it over time, and it makes it a little harder to measure immediately whether or not something was a success or a failure. But, 3-6 months later, you get a call off an ad you already ran, you wrote it off as either a success or failure. It's an added bonus at that point. So it sits around, whereas a radio ad, 30 seconds, it's gone. A yard sign, unless they steal it out of the yard once they drive by, they might remember the name if it's a good name, but it's likely gone. The stat on it, if you're curious, is direct mail has an average lifespan of 17 days. How on earth these places get these stats, I don't know, but it is a legitimate consulting firm that did it. And one more point. So you hear me bashing on digital indirectly. I'm not intending to do that. It's not a substitute for, direct mail is not a substitute for other media. I want you to diversify what you're doing to create stability. So we want stability in what we're doing. I think as much as us crazy entrepreneurs usually like change, adding stability should be the ultimate goal. And at the end of the day, what we're really buying with direct mail is control. So let's back up a little higher level for a second, because when I say direct mail, different people think of different things. So most people immediately think of, a postcard. If you've been around direct response marketing for a while, you might think of a sales letter. And they start thinking of, just mailers going out. But that's not, the real advantage we have here. The real advantage is like threefold. So I'm kind of curious before I jump in. Those of you that are doing online primarily, do you feel in control of that marketing? Or do you feel at mercy of the platform? And I think I'm annoying Kevin walking out of frame there, but that's fine. So someone said they were doing Google ads. Apologize, I didn't remember which one of you said it. Let me check chat here. Murray says, absolutely not, exclamation point. Yeah, you are right. Like, you get some targeting. Facebook has advantage ads, and TikTok's extremely limited if you're advertising there. They're going to show you some views. But you really don't have control in the sense of what we're going to talk about here. So number one, you get to decide the message in direct mail. There's very little you can't send in the mail. So you're not at the mercy of an algorithm for what gets delivered. You're not at the mercy of censorship either. So the post office, except for a few bad eggs, don't get to decide whether or not your message gets delivered. You pay the fee, it's going. Okay? So you get to control the actual message. You get to control the audience too. So yeah, you have targeting online, but offline, I can tell you exactly what household got it. And that is a level of control that we just don't have elsewhere. So we can control who sees it. And finally, we have control on timing. We can say when and how often it goes. So we have Facebook ads running, and it tells you the frequency, but I don't know, like, if they saw it on day 1 and day 10, and then it waited 2 months to show it again. That's the black box. With direct mail, we control timing as well. So with other media, you're renting the media. There's nothing wrong with that. But modern marketing is rented attention. Direct mail is owned. We own the process. We don't physically deliver it, but we control how it goes, when it goes, what it says, when it arrives, that, and who it goes to. So that is a level of control we just don't get elsewhere. So let's talk about some users of direct mail. And I usually do this earlier, but I don't think I'm overcoming the is it extinct because y'all spent money to be here. Users of direct mail that I find amusing. Number one, Wayfair, the online furniture company. Pretty good amount of direct mail they do. They did a ton during COVID as well when they were like booming. Number two, which is my ironic one, is eBay. eBay uses direct mail and they don't even sell their own stuff. So number three, I've seen these less and less, so I'm kind of curious where they're at. I should do some research on it, but the Google ads have been a staple of direct mail for a long time. They send out coupons and flyers for a discount. Amazon's Joy Delivered. This was, I think we're about 5 years into this particular one now. So Amazon Joy Delivered, if you haven't seen it, it's the modern Sears catalog or wish book that you get around Christmas if you've been buying a bunch of kids stuff. So kids go through, circle their Christmas gifts, takes me back to my childhood. But the only difference is I remember the Sears and the Montgomery Ward and the JCPenney catalogs, and they had prices on them. The Amazon Joy Delivered does not have prices. Also, I noticed, I believe it was last year, Target picked this up, and Target also started sending out a booklet format, a magazine format Christmas catalog at the end of the year. So this is another piece. This is Amazon's music subscription. So if you subscribe to that or subscribe and stop subscribing, you'll probably start seeing that. So each division of Amazon's actually a pretty heavy user. DoorDash. DoorDash does a pretty good amount of direct mail as well. And I'm not sure what competition they have at this point. I don't think Grubhub really digs in too deep into them. And then finally, Indeed. So direct mail to get employers to advertise to get employees. So just because big companies do it doesn't necessarily mean you should do it, but it is usually evidence it works because some of these are really careful and controlling of their budget. Also, it doesn't mean you should copy the piece they're doing. But all right, let's talk about failure, which is what everyone wants to talk about when they hear about direct mail, I'm sure. This is failure. So most marketing in general fails, if you aren't aware of that, and most direct mail fails. So let's get that out of the way and let's break down why. Reasons why. Number one is one and done thinking. So I'm gonna send something once, I'm gonna do it big, and I'm gonna hope it works. Now that's usually not what you're telling yourself when you're doing it. Like usually you're doing some math in your head. You heard someone preaching about some media and you're like, man, if I get 1% response and they buy this for X dollars and I got 5 million people I can send to, I'm gonna be rich. And then you do it once and you go broke. So this is commonly what happens. Number two, no system. No consistency and no follow-up. What happens after the lead is generated, really important. And I think we touch on it a little in the afternoon, but it's not the focus of this workshop. But if you don't have the system in play to handle the inbound lead well from a cold media, or even a warm one, we're doing mostly warm today with newsletters and referrals, it will not be profitable. We have a couple industries we serve, and I don't know if anyone on right now is from those industries. I don't think so. Where we serve a lot of people in the same industry across the United States, like to the tune of, we've probably done hundreds in the industry at this point. And we will have basically the exact same piece in multiple markets. One company is thrilled, it's a smashing success, and the other one doesn't work. Let's try something else. Okay? Sometimes that does happen by fluke. More often than not, though, what happens is we go and we listen to the call recordings. And it was botched when the lead came in. And this drives me nuts as an agency owner. By God, I've heard terrible inbound calls before. So make sure that if you're going to put this money out, you know how to deal with them when they come in. And you realize that it costs you hundreds of dollars to make that phone ring or them to go to online or whatever the case is. A lot of fortune is lost there. And it's something I can't help you fix. I can point out the problem and I can give you the recordings to prove it. But most of our clients aren't dealing with like massive volume, not a ton of volume of outbound, not a ton of volume of response. Most of our clients are in industries where a client is worth a lot of money and they don't need a ton of them. And when they get them, or they get the referral source calling in, which is what we'll talk about this afternoon, and answer with, hey, or what's going on, or I can't talk right now, this is a problem. And yes, I'm talking about this a long time, but it's because I see it over and over and over. And that's after the call tells them, by the way, direct mail lead from Jurassic Marketing connecting now. So please don't do that. You'll drive me nuts. And third one, why most fails, wrong expectations. What we are talking about primarily today is a slow build, get rich slow process, which I get is not super exciting, but it's the most predictable pieces that we do here. And we do hundreds of thousands of them. So we are talking about systematic ways to create ROI over time via building familiarity. So yes, you should have response pretty quick out the gate, but you have to recognize that the real money is in the follow-up and the longer term and the repeat. So wrong expectations, and we try and, if you're like using us as an agency, we try and talk about that in your consult and your onboarding. Otherwise, you're just setting yourself up for disappointment. And finally, messaging problems. What actually works? So, staying visible. So this is where the system helps, right? We want to make sure that once we've established a connection, we continue to be in front of them consistently over time, because that reinforces the trust. So we talked about the direct mail gives you some trust out the gate that we don't get from other media, but it's up to you to take advantage of that for sure. Once we are visible, now we have another trick. And this one bothers me as an agency owner because we struggle with this as well. So we do direct mail, right? We have predictable campaigns and systems that run, and they get results. Turns out that's not enough to keep people's attention. So we have to make sure we're continually staying relevant, and there's always something new, and even if it's like reselling them on the same thing. So keep that in mind. The messaging has to stay relevant to what's important to them in their world. We build that trust over time, again, especially if you're in one of these event-driven, it could be life event or something type of industry. So I'll take Lynn's client's example as the public adjuster. There has to have been some sort of claim going on and probably some dispute over the claim payout in order to hire that particular service. So we are not in control of when that occurs. But if we've builded trusted connections to be the person there when that service is needed, that takes time to build that relationship. Or sometimes we have to kick out the incumbent. So we've run campaigns that are completely dependent on someone else screwing up over time. And we do this for ourselves too, so that might be the best example. We are a provider of direct mail at the end of the day. If you just need print services or something like that, you have infinite places to buy print services. Even if you are using agency services, you have hundreds of places to do that. Sometimes I meet people at events that are doing direct mail and they're happy with their provider. Great. I'm not trying to dethrone them. However, you're going on my list because at some point over the next 3 years, that provider is either not going to be able to deliver something when you want to, they're going to screw up something, and I'm going to have a chance now. I'm not going to win just by being there, but now I have a chance and an opening, and that's what I want. If you got anything out of setting the stage here, it's you don't need to do more. You don't need more marketing. You just need the right core pieces in place here. You need focus.
Thanks for listening to the Triceratops podcast. Be sure to subscribe and leave your comments. For more information on how Jurassic Marketing Direct Mail can help grow your business, visit JurassicMarketing.com.